times. Venezuela's once thriving middle class is now trapped in desperation, struggling to put food on the table, some even dying from simple infections due to a lack of basic medicines. Our Matt Gutman traveled to Venezuela for a rare first-hand report from inside this repressive authoritarian regime.
The end of the line for the toilet paper and paper towels is here.
Food fight broke out. You can see in this video an employee and a 15-year-old customer began throwing items at each other.
Crisis in Venezuela has descended to death to go farther than the absence of free speech and prosperity. Just the basics to survive in Venezuela are a luxury. People have to worry about fighting off hunger and each other in order to live.
I grew up in a place where crime and corruption were rampant, and the nation was governed by tyranny, fear, violence,
and its authoritarian rulers. President Nicolas Maduro, the descent into chaos has accelerated. Caracas is now the murder capital of the world. Deny it even exists.
No hay crisis humanitaria. No la hay. Lo afirmo con total responsabilidad.
The one thing that kept me going when I was in Venezuela was hope. The hope that I could come back to San Francisco, the hope that I can come back to my home, and that I could run away, and that I could get away from all the problems that Venezuela was facing. Venezuela was facing massive food shortages, resource shortages. The economy was plummeting. People would have to wait in lines for 5 or 6 hours at a time to see if they could maybe get some food. We had to go days without hot water. We'd have to bucket water to survive throughout the week. And it's sad that I'm living the situation again, honestly. But it's helped put a lot of things into perspective. Living the situation again is not as hard as it was the first time, for sure. But it's a lot different because when I was in Venezuela, I was with my family. I had my parents, my sister, my dogs around me. Here now, I'm alone. I'm by myself, stuck in my apartment, not really knowing what to do, trying to keep myself busy, working out, cooking more, doing Zoom, writing emails to people, trying to keep in contact, trying to keep myself sane. Back in Venezuela, we didn't have much. We barely had anything. And, you know, even things like being able to walk outside, being able to do grocery shopping on my own, having decent Wi-Fi, things like that are things that I didn't have in Venezuela, you know. Just to give you an idea, you know, in Venezuela, if I wanted to watch a YouTube video that was 10 minutes, I had to put it out 188p, lowest quality, let it load for 10 minutes, and then I could watch it. If I wanted to download a video game, it would take me 2 or 3 days to download a couple gigabyte game. I couldn't walk outside because it was too dangerous, and 2, I constantly had a target on my back.
Todos son testigos. Hay gente que no podemos hablar. ¿Por qué? Porque nos tienen amordazados. Si tú hablas, mandan a los colectivos a que te agredan, a que te maten.
As you could probably tell and imagine, I looked a little bit different than a majority of Venezuelans did. Being a very large, tall, ginger-haired white man, being in a very Latin community, essentially where no one else looked like me. For the entire time I was in Venezuela, I would say I only met one other person that looked vaguely similar, but every time I went outside, I was afraid. I was afraid for my life. I was afraid for my parents' life. I had to change my way of being. I couldn't speak English outside. My parents told me, that's the best way to get kidnapped. Obviously, I didn't want that to happen, so I had to start speaking Spanish a lot more. I had to change what I did at home. I fell into a pretty deep depression. I fell into melancholy, not really taking care of myself, and grew this very thick outer shell around myself that helped me keep sane and helped me keep going. But looking back on it now, it's not healthy, and that's the one thing I'm focusing on now in this quarantine, is taking care of my mental health, taking care of my personal well-being, taking care of my health, and because that's the only way you can really do things. Because for the longest time, I thought taking care of yourself was selfish, but it's not. And what is selfish is not taking care of yourself and not thinking about those around you, which is what I see a lot of the time when I go to grocery stores or when I walk around. People just don't give a damn.
¿Cuánto hace que no tomas leche? Acabo de buscar mi bolsa solidaria en un club. Me dieron una leche, 1 kilo de caraotas, un aceite, 2 kilos de harina pan, 2 kilos de arroz y un jugo de guayaba. Esto después de anotarnos en una lista hace 3 semanas, donde nos censaron los hábitos de mi familia, censaron cuántas habitaciones había en mi casa, cuántos baños, cuántas personas vivían en ella. Y a las 3 semanas entonces nos llega nuestra bolsa solidaria. Obviamente esto tiene que durar un mes.
Miren los huecos que he tenido que hacerle 10 huecos para poder, mira como yo era de gordo, Mire cuántos huecos le he echado a la correa, la dieta de Maduro.
I spent 6 years, give or take, essentially inside, not being able to leave my house, sometimes physically. There were times in Venezuela where there were barricades set up in the streets where you physically couldn't go anywhere, and they would lock down the city, the people, that is. And so we had to stay inside. We had to have this virtual school, this online school. Back then it was just Google Chat, nothing as fancy as Zoom, but this is all very normal for me to a certain degree. So I'm okay. I'm here. 6 or 7 years in a hole, and I'm still here.